All right, this is the deck tech for Ashling, the Limitless. This is based off of the new pre-con that came out with Lorwyn. I basically just took that pre-con and then I made some slight modifications, added a few additional cards. So Ashling, the Limitless reads, elemental spells you cast from your hand have evoke for colorless. Whenever you sacrifice a non-token elemental, create a token that's a copy of it. The token gets haste until end of turn, and then at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice it unless you pay Wooburg, which for the most part you won't be paying. You're simply just trying to get value from the enter the battlefield or the death triggers. And I like the fact that the evoke is 4 colorless, so in a 5-color deck, you can still easily cast all your elementals for the evoke cost because it's colorless. And then of course, there's other ways to reduce the cost of elemental creature spells so that you're paying even less than 4 colorless. So, essentially what I did is I took the pre-con deck and then I went through my collection and I found a few additional elemental cards that I decided to add to the deck. And I'll show you what came of it. So we'll go ahead and start with the artifacts. We got Mox Diamond, very good for mana fixing. Soul Ring should be banned, but it's not, so you have to put it in every deck. Arcane Signet, good for mana fixing. Swiftfoot Boots, definitely a marginal card, but threw it in there because I like being able to protect Ashling, because Ashling enables the deck to function a lot faster, because elementals for the most part have relatively high casting costs. But if we're getting it down to just 4 or potentially less than 4, the deck can behave a lot lower to the ground. Altar of Dementia, sacrifice a creature, target player mills equal to its power. So this is in the deck as a way to win outside of damage, where you can mill, because when you're evoking a creature, you can respond to the sacrifice trigger. So you can still mill it before you have to sack it from the evoke. Urza's Incubator, extremely good in a tribal deck, and I do have many elemental cards, so this is certainly one of the better cards in the deck. Chromatic Lantern, just good mana fixing. Herald's Horn, little bit of mana cost reduction as well as some card advantage. Patchwork Banner, mana fixing as well as an anthem effect. Phyrexian Altar, another sacrifice outlet to get additional mana from being able to sacrifice before the evoke trigger resolves. Gathering Stone, another cost reducer from the new set, as well as some card advantage. Solemn Simulacrum, I like it for the mana fixing and the fact that it's colorless, so you can always cast it as long as you have 4 mana. And then of course you're able to fix a little bit of mana and then eventually get to draw a card if he dies. Roaming Throne, very good value for doubling up on all of the elemental triggered abilities. Therian Dynamo, because I have a lot of high casting cost cards, I like being able to get additional mana, so it's pretty good. Crumbling Sanctuary, for each 1 damage that would be dealt to a player, that player removes the top card of his or her library from the game instead. I mainly just have this in the deck because I have a competitive advantage, because my deck is a little bit bigger than your typical 100-card commander deck. Timeless Lotus, more mana fixing. Oblivion Sower, some additional mana fixing. It's colorless, so it's easy to cast. It's not an elemental, but I don't mind having this type of a card in the deck. Chronicle of Victory, card advantage, as well as an Anthem effect with First Strike and Trample. Ugin the Spirit Dragon, nice little board wipe, late game Planeswalker. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and go into the black cards. Moon Shadow, one of the new elementals from Lorwyn. Presumed Dead. This will get cut at some point because I just don't own some of the other ones that are only 1 mana. I know that there is there's a flip card where it's a black land, or it's, I think, a 1 black instant to do the same type of effect. But anyways, this type of effect is good for evoked creatures because you know it's going to die, and then you can just get it to come back to the battlefield. So, like I said, this one will get upgraded at some point. I just don't have the particular card yet. I think it's like Malakir something or other. Rebirth, maybe? Victimize, similar type of effect. Choose 2 creature cards in your graveyard, and then you sack a creature. If you do, put the 2 chosen creatures into play tapped. So the thought is you evoke some elementals, those elementals end up in the graveyard, and then you later then use this to target potentially a token that it would normally be sacrificed at the end of the turn, and you just sack the token to ultimately get back maybe the original card and then another elemental card in the graveyard, you know, just getting additional value. Grave Shifter, changeling that allows you to return a creature from the graveyard to your hand. Shapeshifter, so it'll still count as an elemental or a changeling. Shriekmaw, it's a destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. Just some removal. Shimmer Creep, a little bit of life drain. Burial Rites. It's a single target reanimation spell, but you are able to flash it back, so you get some additional value from it. It's a classic card. Cavalier of Night, a little bit of creature removal, as well as some recursion with CMC 3 or less. Dawn of the Dead, nothing fancy, just some additional recursion. 3 black mana is not necessarily easy to cast, but I do have some mana fixing in the deck, so it is playable. This is one of those cards where, you know, I'll probably end up swapping this out for, say, like a Living Death, which I have somewhere in my collection. I just don't know where it is, so I ordered a new one, but apparently it's in the mail or has not yet been delivered. Lamentation. When it dies, destroy a creature, and you gain some life, as well as the ability to recast it for Encore later on. Haunting Voyage. Some more recursion. Same thing with this. Bloodline Bidding. Choose a creature type, return all creature cards of the chosen type from my graveyard to the battlefield. All right, now we're going to go to the blue cards. We'll get these out of the way. All right. Phantasmal Image, a very cheap way to copy an elemental that's on the battlefield. And the cool thing about it is if someone does target it, normally you'd have to sacrifice it, right? Well, sacrificing it is not that big of a deal when you have Ashling on the battlefield, because when you sacrifice it, you're just going to get another copy of it, so you get some more ETB effects. Summit Sentinel, just a little bit of card draw. When it dies, draw a card. Nothing fancy about it, but it is an elemental. Cyclonic Rift. It's a catch-all. Very, very good commander card. Speaking of a very good commander card, Rhystic Study. You don't see that in a precon, but you know, this is a precon on steroids, and probably, well, yeah, just a lot. Steroids is the best way to describe it. Fact or Fiction, a fun multiplayer card, fun single-player card as well, but in multiplayer, it's even better because there can be situations where there can be some incentivized collusion between players that might be behind someone who might be in the lead. So they might be incentivized to give you advantageous piles. You know, the dream is to get a pile of 5 and a pile of 0, but you know, usually that's just a dream. Tenafil Rhyme Speaker. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, draw a card. So it's card advantage. Collective Restraint. It's a propaganda card for a 5-color deck. Very good. Pretty easy to get all 5 land types. Slither Muse. When this creature leaves the battlefield, choose an opponent. If that player has more cards in hand than you, draw cards equal to the difference. Very good with Ashling and being able to have it trigger twice. Subterfuge. When this creature enters, target creature gains flying, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards until end of turn, as well as Encore. Mole Drifter. When it enters, draw 2. Very good. Oh, and my name is Jason Mole, so it fits me. Torrent Elemental. This is a way to make sure that your creatures get through because you're able to tap down all creatures that the defending player controls. Battle of Wits. So when you have, which I think right now I have like 279 cards in the deck. So having this in the deck is just an alternate win condition, or it's, you know, one of many. Kindred Discovery. More card advantage. Omni Changeling. It's a clone effect with Changeling. Cavalier of Gales. A little bit of Brainstorm, a little bit of Scry. Very good with Ashling. Shine Striker, one of the new elementals. Again, it's card draw. I like card draw. I have plenty of cards, so it's obviously good to be drawing those cards. Harmonize Crescendo. Choose a creature type. Draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. Instant speed, so not bad. 1,000 Winds. It's an elemental, but it also has the ability to bounce every other tapped creature. Season of Weaving. This is versatile in the sense that I can make copies of creatures if I have some pretty good elementals in play that have ETB effects, but it also has the ability to bounce non-land, non-token permanents. Eddie Merc Crab. Nothing fancy. This is just one of those, you know, random elementals that I threw in the deck. I threw in a few of them. Sunderflock, one of the better ones in the deck. It's cheaper based off of the greatest mana value among elementals I control, and then being able to return all non-elemental creatures is clearly very strong in an elemental tribal deck. All right, now we're going to go to the green cards, which this is a 5-color deck, but it is green is the main color, so that's what helps enable the mana fixing and all that. So start off with an ignoble hierarch, birds of paradise, noble hierarch, and then we're going to get some mana ramp, nature's lore, search for a forest card, which I do play a bunch of different dual lands with basic land types. So when it says search a forest card, I'll be able to search up, potentially a tri-land or a dual land. Same thing for Farseek. 3 visits, same thing. Evolutionary leap. This works really well because you can respond to the evoke sacrifice trigger, so you can still get value from being able to replace whatever elemental creature you evoked, presumably to find another elemental creature. Birthing ritual, another very good synergy with Ashling and tokens, and being able to get elementals that will actually stay on the board rather than having to sacrifice them at the end of the turn. Steely Resolve, a fantastic card for a tribal deck. Choose elemental, of course. Sylvan Library. Again, card advantage is great. I have a decent amount of shuffle effects, so that works really well with Sylvan Library as well. Plus, you start with 40 life, so paying 4 life per card ain't no thing. Heroic Intervention, just some interaction to be able to deal with, random board wipes and stuff like that. Rattleclaw Mystic, some more mana fixing. Lotus Cobra, mana fixing. Sylvan Caryatid, mana fixing. Blanchwood Prowler. This elemental card is kind of like a... oh man. The card is... I can't even think of the card right now. But anyways, when this one enters, you mill 3, and then if a land is milled from among those 3, you get to put it into your hand. So hopefully you hit the land, because then it replaces itself, kind of like Elvish Visionary. Up the Beanstalk. Being able to... When Up the Beanstalk enters the battlefield, and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, draw a card. So it cantrips by itself, but then any other 5 mana creature, or not even just a creature, but 5 mana spell that you cast, you get to draw a card. And you might be evoking a spell, but I believe this should still factor in the converted mana cost. I may need to check if there's been any errata on that or anything, but as far as I know, this is going to work pretty well in my deck. Gyre Sage, some more mana ramp. Works well with the fact that I'm having a lot of big creatures enter, so he can eventually tap for a lot of mana. Earthbender Ascension, mana fixing, as well as helps pump creatures late in the game. Elemental Bond, good for card advantage. Garruk's Uprising, also card advantage. Realm Walker, a little bit of card advantage for a tribal deck. Chomping Changeling, just a disenchant on an elemental, so it's good. Formidable Speaker, I like this, of course, because I have a lot of different creatures I can search for, so you can hit whatever silver bullet you may need. Far Wanderings, again, mana ramp. It only searches for 1 basic, but if I do have Threshold, I get to search for 3, which that's nice. Nissa, Resurgent Animist. Whenever a land enters, you add 1 mana, and then if another land enters this turn, you get to reveal cards from the top of your library till you hit an elf or an elemental, put it into your hand, and the rest on the bottom. I do play a decent amount of fetch lands, as well as I have a few ways to play more than 1 land per turn. So that is something where you can trigger the second part of it. Fierce Empath. This will just help me search out one of my big elemental creature cards that, again, it might be a silver bullet for the particular situation I'm in. Mutable Explorer gets you a Mutavault token, not bad. Also counts as an elemental. Cultivate, mana fixing. Kodama's Reach, mana fixing. Food Chain. It's an enchantment. Remove a creature you control from the game. Add X mana of any color to your mana pool, where X is the removed creature's converted mana cost, +1. This mana may be spent only to play creature spells. So, you have that evoke trigger on the stack. You can go ahead and remove it from the game. And then you get enough mana where you can then just hard cast, an elemental from your hand. Undergrowth Champion, just a cheap elemental card. Endurance, a little bit of graveyard interaction. Eldritch Evolution. This works well with sacrificing the token. Search out a big elemental card, put it into play permanently. Birthing Pod, same sort of concept. Searching out a bigger elemental, get some extra value. Foundation Breaker, a little bit of disenchant. Prismatic Undercurrents. Vivid. When this enchantment enters, search your library for up to X basic lands, where X is the number of colors among permanents I control. Reveal those cards, put them into your hand, and then it turns into an exploration. Play an additional land on each of your turns. Defense of the Heart. I have a lot of big creatures, so I can get like an Atraxa. You'll see there's a lot of good targets for this card. Forgotten Ancient. A little bit of +1/+1 counter shenanigans. Goreclaw, Terror of Kalsisma. Creature spells you cast with power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast. Very good with Evoke. Ashling's Evoke. Whenever he attacks, each creature you control power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and gains trample till end of turn. So, pretty good. Vengevine. Another elemental, gets some additional value from being able to bring him back from the graveyard with its second ability. Ice Till Explorer. Not an elemental, but because I do play a bunch of fetch lands, I like the value that he gives, so I was just barely able to find a spot in the deck for it. Wolfbriar Elemental, multi-kicker, getting a bunch of 2/2 wolves, put them on the battlefield. Helps you go wide. Silverglade Elemental, nothing fancy, just a 4/4 that allows you to mana ramp. Hivespine Wolverine. You can use this as creature removal. You can disenchant. You can pump a creature as well. But you only get to choose one. So normally it's just either fighting or disenchant. Titania, Protector of Argoth. Pretty good value. Helps you go wide. Woodborne Behemoth. as long as you control 8 or more lands. Woodborne Behemoth gets +4/+4 and has trample. Whisperwood Elemental. At the beginning of your end step, manifest the top card. Manifest, you just put a creature from the top of your library face down, and then if it's a creature, you can turn it face up by paying its mana cost. And then it does have that second ability where you can get some additional protection against, board wipes, so that if they kill all your creatures, you can then manifest non-token creatures. So Nissa Vital Force makes elemental lands, does a little bit of regrowth, and then it's not impossible to get that emblem. And I like I like card draw. Cavalier of Thorns. When this creature enters, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, the rest into your graveyard. When this creature dies, you can exile it. If you do, put another target card from your graveyard on top of the library. Jubilation. Mini Overrun effect. Grave Sifter. When he enters, each player chooses a creature type and returns any number of cards of that type from his or her graveyard to his or her hand. The thought is that this should be better for me than my opponents, but there are situations where this can backfire, especially if you are playing against other tribal decks. All right, Fido Titan. When he dies, return him to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of his or her next upkeep. So this is a pretty good card to evoke, since you'll be able to get him back into play tapped. Now, he is just 7/2, so he doesn't have trample or anything. So I'm not saying he's great, but I never said that all the elemental cards in the deck are good. In fact, a lot of them are very marginal. So I don't necessarily advise you to do what I'm doing, but I have a pretty vast collection. I kind of like utilizing some of the cards that maybe I haven't used in a very, very long time. Soul of the Harvest. Very good card advantage. Whenever another non-token creature enters under my control, I may draw a card. So I play that in a lot of my green decks. Play it in Elves, play it in my green-white deck, and of course I play it here in an Elemental deck. Bane of Progress. This can really screw over some people, so of course I like playing it. Green Warden of Murasa. When he enters, return a land from your graveyard return a card from your graveyard to your hand. And then you can do the same when he dies, but you'd have to exile it. So normally what you might end up doing is you'll evoke him. So he enters the battlefield. You may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. You can sack him for the evoke trigger, and then let the return target card from your graveyard to your hand trigger to target itself to put him back in your hand, if you want him there. But it's just a good overall card. Galewind Moose. Flash, Vigilance, Reach, Trample. Just a 6/6 beater. This one's very good. Lumra, Bellow of the Woods. Vigilance, Reach. Power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control. But the main thing is, when he enters, mill 4 cards, then return all land cards from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Very good with fetch lands. Very good with Ashling, of course, because you get multiple triggers. Prisma Basher. When this creature enters, up to X target creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of colors among permanents I control. I am playing a 5-color deck. So ideally, that would be 5. Disciple of Freyles, some card advantage, but also it's a utility card in the sense that I can just flip it over and play it as a land. Aurora Awakener, one of the new cards from Lorwyn. It has Vivid. When it enters, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X permanent cards, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. Put any number of those permanents onto the battlefield, and then the rest of the revealed cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. Avenger of Zendikar, good for going wide. Thorn Elemental. So this is one of those cards where it's not going to fit in a normal 100-card commander deck, but it's very nostalgic for me because, back in my day, this was the bane of my existence because my older brother would be playing it in his green deck, and there was just nothing you could do because you could block it, but his damage would still get through. So, I'm playing this mainly as a shout out to my brother Matt. Man, this card killed me so many times. Gaia's Revenge, can't be countered. Haste, can't be the target of non-green spells or abilities from non-green sources. Just an 8/5 beater. Tornado Elemental, when it enters, it does 6 damage to each creature with flying. Hello, Dragon decks. But it also has the similar effect to Thorn Elemental. So, Titan of Industry. This one is really good. So it's 7/7 for 7. When it enters, you get to choose 2. So you destroy target artifact or enchantment. And then normally you're probably just making a 4/4 Rhino Warrior creature token, but there is the option to gain 5 life or maybe put a shield counter on Ashling. Regal Force. When this creature enters, draw a card for each green creature you control. As you can tell, I do play a lot of green creatures, so of course this did find a way into the deck. Alright, so now we are going to go to the red cards. Ashling Rekindled. Whenever this creature enters or transforms, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. At the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay a blue. If you do, transform him. When this creature transforms into Ashling Rhymebound, and at the beginning of your first main phase, add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast spells with mana value 4 or greater. And then, of course, you could transfer him back. Goblin Bombardment. Another way to get some additional value from the evokes. Brighthearth Banneret. It's a cost reducer. Cost reducer is very good for a tribal deck. Flame Braider, Mana Dork for elementals. Smoke Braider, Mana Dork for elementals. Incandescent Soulstoke. This is a Anthem effect as well as a sneak attack effect for elementals. Very good. The sacrifice works really well with this as well. So an interesting thing is this. So you got Ashling in play. You have Incandescent Soulstoke in play. Go ahead and activate him. Then you'll put an elemental card into play. It gets haste, but then you have to sack it at the beginning of the next end step. Well, you sack it at the beginning of the next end step, then that will then trigger this. Whenever you sacrifice a non-token elemental, create a token that's a copy of it. That token gains haste until the end of turn. At the beginning of your next end step, sack it unless you play Wooburg. So that elemental that you sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step gets a token that will not have to be sacrificed until your next end step. So it'll stay around for one additional turn, so you'll be able to still attack with it on the following turn. Crater Elemental does a little bit of creature removal. Sizzling Changeling. When it dies, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you can play that card. Enraged Flamecaster. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, this creature does 2 damage to each opponent. Way to burn out your opponents. Sneak Attack. Just a very, very good card in this deck with Ashling, of course. Sneak that creature into play. At the end of turn, sack it, but then you get a token. That token will be around until your next end step. Descendant's Fury. Whenever one or more creatures you control deals combat damage to a player, you can sack one of them. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with a sacrificed creature. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So that's a way to get a permanent elemental out on the battlefield. Champion of the Path. Another way to burn out opponents. Whenever another elemental I control enters, deal damage equal to its power to each opponent. So very good for burning out. Molten Echoes. You choose elemental. Whenever a non-token creature of the chosen type enters, you create a token that's a copy of that creature. That token gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. Sunspine Lynx. Players can't gain life. Damage can't be prevented. When he enters, it deals damage equal to each. It deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. This can hurt you quite a bit because I do play a lot of non-basics, but I also play a bunch of basics. So, you found a way in the deck, just barely, just barely. Ingature. One red evoke, destroy target soul ring. Seismic Elemental. When he enters, creatures without flying cannot block this turn. Fury, double strike. Whenever this creature enters, it does 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures or planeswalkers. So just a little bit of creature removal. Just a 5/5 reach, trample, haste. Thunderblast. Haste 7/2. It does have persist, and then it turns into a ball lightning if it if it has a -1/-1 counter on it. Spite Bellows. When Spite Bellows leaves the battlefield, it deals 6 damage to target creature. So again, that's creature removal. Warstorm Surge. Whenever a creature you control enters, it does damage equal to its power to any target. So another way to burn out. Impulsivity. When this creature enters, you may cast target instant or sorcery from a graveyard without paying its mana cost, and then exile it. So good in multiplayer, because I'm sure someone has a good instant or sorcery that I can cast. Tyrant of Discord. When it enters, you get to make one person really mad. Again, I like doing that. Blasphemous Act. Let's kill everything. All right. Now we're going to be on to the white cards. Academy Rector. When Academy Rector is put into a graveyard from play, you can remove him from the game. If you do, search your library for a Battle of Wits and put that card into play. Then shuffle your library. Beza, the Bounding Spring. So this elemental card is really good for getting some value. When he enters, create a treasure token if someone has more lands than you. not necessarily going to happen a lot because I do have a lot of mana ramp. But you gain 4 if someone has more life than you. You get 2 1/1 blue fish tokens if someone has more creatures, and then you draw a card if someone has more cards in hand. So, really good with Ashling. Revelark. When he leaves, you get to return up to 2 creatures with power 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. I don't have a ton of 2 power or less creatures, but I have enough that I'm like, well, why not? I can find a spot for Revelark in the deck. Iridu, Carrier of Dawn, one of the new elementals. Very good because when you transform Iridu, it gives non-token creatures I control persist. Persist is clearly very, very good in an Evoke deck. So, good card. Cavalier of Dawn. When he enters, destroy, what's that? I think this is called White Elephant Gift, or I don't know what it is. But destroy a non-land permanent, they get a 3/3 Golem token. And then when he dies, return an artifact or enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. Belonging. Make 3 1/1s when he enters. So evoke him, you're going to get 3 1/1s twice, so 6 1/1s. Descend upon the sinful, exile all creatures, and then if you have Delirium, you got to put a 4/4 Flying Angel into play. All right, now we're going to go ahead and go over the multicolor cards. Just want to put my flip cards to the side so I can fix that in a bit. All right. Deathrite Shaman, mana fixing, graveyard hate, life gain, life drain. The best of, probably one of the best 1-drops ever. Ren and 6, just a very cheap planeswalker. You know, get fetch lands back, get wasteland or strip mine back. Risen Reef. Whenever this creature or another elemental enters, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, it goes into play, tapped. If you don't, just put it in your hand. Very good. Again, it's card advantage. Faeburrow Elder. Some mana ramp. Wayfaring Temple. It's an elemental. It's the same thing as a Voice of Resurgence token. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, populate. So I have a lot of tokens, so I can get some additional value there. Aura Shards. I play a lot of creatures, so making all my creatures Reclamation Sages is very good. Pernicious Deed. Just a great catch-all card. I'm a 5-color deck, so why not play it? Domri Rade. You know, I have like, I don't know, 120 creatures or something crazy like that. So I have a good portion of the deck is creatures. So, you know, just think of this as a 3-mana planeswalker that generates card advantage. Now it does have the ability to, you know, fight creatures, or if somehow you get to the emblem is insane. But for the most part, it's just card advantage. Fulminator Mage, some land destruction. Works well with Ashling on the battlefield because you can sack it, get a copy of it, sack the copy. Flaring Cinder. When this creature enters and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, you can discard, and then if you do, you draw a card. So that's a way to keep finding additional elementals to be casting and getting value out of. Eclipse Flamekin. When it enters, look at the top 4. You can reveal an elemental, island, or mountain. and then you can put one of them into your hand. Riveteer's Ascendancy. Whenever you sack a creature, you may return target creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. You can only do it once. So again, this is a way to get card advantage. And I'm doing a lot of sacrificing of creatures, so works pretty well. Helga, Skittish Seer. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4 or greater, you draw a card, gain 1 life, and you bump them up with a +1/+1 counter. And then it has a way to tap for mana to help cast big elemental spells. Temur Ascendancy, very good in the deck. Gives my creatures haste, but also generates card advantage. Animar, Soul of the Elements, protection from white and black. When you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on him. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less for each +1/+1 counter on Animar. Once you get this to 4, Evoke is all of a sudden free, which is a beautiful thing. Temur Battlecrier. During your turn, spells you cast cost 1 less for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. I play a lot of big creatures, so makes things cheap. Blazing Hellhound. Just a 4/3 elemental, but it also has the ability to sack another creature, and then he does 1 damage to target creature or player. So a little bit of creature removal. Works well with getting value from sacking creatures before the evoke trigger resolves. Twin Flame Travelers doubles up on elemental triggers. Very, very good. Omnath, Locus of the Royal. When he enters, deals damage to any target equal to the number of elementals I control, and then he does have landfall. Put a +1/+1 counter on target elemental I control. If I have 8 or more lands, I draw a card. Omnath, Locus of Creation. This one is a little bit better, I think, just because this guarantees that I draw a card. And then it does have that whole landfall thing with gain some life. And then if it's the second time, you get to add 4 mana. And if it's the third time, you deal 4 damage to each opponent. Yarok, the Desecrated, doubles the triggers, which of course is great with all my ETB effects. Vibrance, one of the new elementals, being able to search up a cradle or deal 3 damage to a creature. Wistfulness, exile an artifact or enchantment, draw 2 and discard 1. Just really good value. This is the type of card that is preferably not evoked, because again, when the token copy comes into play, you're not going to get additional ETB effects. So ideally, rather than pay 4 mana, you would just pay the full mana cost, but you would pay green and you would pay blue, so you get both effects. But there are times where it might make sense to evoke it for blue, green, just to cast it on curve. But the downside, of course, is that you only get to attack with it the one time, because the token will get sacrificed, and of course he will already be in the graveyard. Ashling's Command. Choose 2. Create a token that's a copy of target elemental. Very good. Target player draws 2 cards. I like card advantage. Ashling's Command deals 2 damage to each creature target player controls. And then the last one is you can get 2 treasure tokens. Horde of Notions. 5 mana, 5/5, Vigilance, Trample, Haste, and then its activated ability is you can play target elemental card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. Massive Mysteries. 5/5, First Strike, Vigilance, Trample. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target elemental you control gains Myriad until end of turn. Whenever it attacks for each opponent other than the defending player, you can create a token copy that's tapped and attacking that player. Exile the tokens at the end of combat. So it is very good with elementals that have some sort of ETB effect. Muldrotha, the Gravetide. During each of your turns, you can play a land and cast a permanent spell of each permanent type from your graveyard. Deceit, bounce, and discard, one of the new elemental cards. Emptiness, recursion of a mana value 3 or less, and then creature removal, -3/-3. Catharsis, just make a couple 1/1s, and then creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste until end of turn. You know, this is not a great card, but it's an elemental, so I justified it. Vernal Sovereign. Now this one is good. When this creature enters or attacks, create a green and white elemental creature with power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control. So enter or attacks, so you end up getting a lot of tokens out of it. Atraxa, Grand Unifier. 7 mana, not an elemental, but I'm a 5-color deck. I can cast it. I do have ramp, so it's not too difficult to cast. And I love card advantage. Shroud Stomper. When he enters, each opponent gets drained for 2. You gain 2 and draw a card. Not bad. Omnath, Locus of Rage. Whenever a land enters, put a 5/5 red and green elemental onto the battlefield, and whenever he or another elemental you control dies, lightning bolt target creature or player. Really good. Maelstrom Wanderer. Now, if you cast this, you get a Cascade, which is pretty insane, as well as giving your creatures haste. So, this is a good card to evoke, because, you know, of course it only costs 4 mana, but it's still considered casting it. So you still get the Cascade, which who knows what you hit from that. All right, I'm going to try to be quick here, just go through the lands I got. I got some shock lands, Stomping Ground, Steam Vents, Temple Garden, Sacred Foundry. I got some Surveil lands, Red-Blue, Thundering Falls, Meticulous Archive, White-Blue, Shadowy Backstreet, White-Black, Underground Mortuary, Green-Black, Raucous Theater, Black-Red, Commercial District, Red-Green, Lush Portico, Green-White. Oh, and Hedge Maze, Green-Blue. Oh, look, I got another. Elegant Parlor, Red-White. Got a bunch of tri-lands. It's Naya, Jetmir's Garden, Ketria Triome, Temur. I think I got more. Anyways, I'm sure I do have some more tri-lands. Maybe they're not necessarily in order at the moment. Dual land, we got Tundra, Scrubland, Taiga, Savannah, Underground Sea, Tropical Island, Bayou, Volcanic Island, Plateau. I think that's all the dual lands except for Badlands. I guess Red-Black was never my thing in Legacy. Never really played Jund. So I don't actually have the Red-Black duel, but maybe one day. We'll see. All right, yeah, so I do have some more tri-lands. I got Jund, Grixis, Abzan, Jeskai, Esper, Bant. I don't have Sultai in the deck. I forget what it's called, like Zagroth or something, Triome. Have it in my Sultai Elves deck, but I only own one, so I'm going to leave that in the Elves deck. Eventually I'll get it in here. I just haven't acquired a second copy. Strip Mine, Wasteland, Classics. I love land destruction. All right, Temple of Abandon, Green and red are my primary colors, so I like having a few additional green-red duels. Carplucid Forest, a little bit of just a pain land. Grove of the Burn Willows. We'll give our opponents life if we need the green or red. Otherwise, it'll just tap our colorless. These two came in this one and another green-blue came in the pre-con. This will eventually get removed for something else, but it works for now. Rugged Prairie, one of those fancy expedition lands I opened up in, I think, Battle for Zendikar, I think. But 5-color deck, why not? Yeah, this is the other one that came in the pre-con. This one will eventually get removed, but for now it's not bad. And then I think this has just the 5 tri-lands that came in the pre-con. So, yeah, Abzan, Bant, Naya, Sultai, Jund, Temur. Oh, Gaia's Cradle, look at that. I mean, I play a bunch of creatures, so it's a good card. City of Brass. Funny story, I forgot I had this. I just had a regular old City of Brass in my deck. Then I was just going through my collection and I saw this and I looked at the price and I was like, what in the heck? This has shot up in value since I got it, which, you know, I got this probably, how long ago? I don't know, maybe 25 years ago, something crazy like that, early 2000s, but very cool. City of Brass. All right, so now I have a bunch of just 5-color elemental lands. Mana Confluence, very similar to City of Brass. Reflecting Pool. Undiscovered Paradise, Path of Ancestry, Ancient Ziggurat, Exotic Orchard, Cavern of Souls, Abundant Countryside, Gemstone Mine, Forbidden Orchard. Used to love playing this with Oath of Druids. Primal Beyond, Eclipse Realms, Unclaimed Territory, Command Tower, Broker. Okay, now we're into the fetches. Broker's Hideout, Riveteer's Overlook, Fabled Passage, Evolving Wilds, Bloodstained Mire, I almost feel like oh, never mind. I'll have to go back. For a second, I was thinking I didn't go over Battle of Wits, but I apologize. This has definitely gone on a long time, but unfortunately, when you have so many darn cards in the deck, it's hard to do it quickly. Verdant Catacombs, Misty Rainforest, Flooded Strand, Arid Mesa, Windswept Heath, Wooded Foothills, Polluted Delta. All right, so that's all the fetches. Now the last cards are just the basics. Should be 3 swamps. Yeah, 3 swamps. Should be 3 islands. Probably like a dozen forests. I'm gonna have to count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 forests. We got 3 mountains and 2 plains. So again, the focus will be on green mana, because the green mana is the primary color in the deck that, of course, then enables the mana fixing to then cast every other spell. And then, of course, because the commander does cost red is important. But you'll see I still only have 3 mountains, and that's because I still want to make sure that I'm able to cast all my cards. So rather than just focus on red only, I try to get those 5-color lands or the fetch lands that can then search up whichever particular basic land type I need. So, needless to say, this was definitely a long one. If you're still watching, I appreciate you taking the time to hear me talk about my deck. The thing that's difficult about the deck is, of course, having to shuffle and search. So, it's probably not the first deck I would play with, say like a new group. But, if I'm playing with a group that I've played with for a while, those games are, going to be more casual and loose in the sense that you can, I could hand someone at the table half the deck and they can help me search for the card I'm looking for. So of course, this is not what I would bring out to say, just like a new group, but I like the deck quite a bit. It's been very fun to play. It's played surprisingly well. I would describe this as a better pre-con, because again, it's essentially the pre-con plus a lot of elemental cards and then a few bangers. I have a lot of powerful, Mox Diamond, Gaia's Cradle, things like that, where those types of cards are pretty insane. But because it's 279 cards or whatever, it's not meant to be ultra competitive. It's more meant to be like just a very fun deck to play, because I'm basically just ramping out, playing big creatures, getting value from those creatures, and having a good time, because every game is going to be way different, because you never know what part of the 279 you're going to hit in that particular game. And then of course having those weird win conditions where I can mill you out with Altar of Dementia, I can play Crumbling Sanctuary, I can play Battle of Wits, things like that. I enjoy that type of stuff. Now again, if you're more about just trying to win games, there's better ways to do it than having just a massive deck. But I've made the decision, hey, this is the route I want to go, because normally I'm not going to play some of those weak elemental cards, because they're just not going to be good enough to fit into 99. But in the 279, yeah, we might be able to find a spot for a Silverglade Elemental, one of those very marginal cards where it might have been good 20 years ago, but nowadays, they design cards that are just insane, so they don't quite hold up. Like I said, Thorn Elemental, that card gave me nightmares back in the day in terms of head-to-heads with my older brother, but put that in any random commander deck nowadays, it's 7 mana, 7/7, whoop-de-doo. Like that's nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link to my Mox field. That will of course change over time as I get new elementals and take some out. I do believe that I'm going to probably cut this down. I haven't really done the math on it yet, but I'm thinking I want to have, just, I would say somewhere around 230 cards. So, I'll have to cut about 40 or so, 40 or 50. It just depends, because I still want to play Battle of Wits. So I know there is an optimal number of cards in the deck so that you can play Battle of Wits and still reliably trigger the 200 cards in your deck. But again, this deck is not at all meant to be the best Ashling the Limitless deck. It's just meant to be a very fun deck for fun casual games where occasionally I get to do some pretty crazy things, but for the most part, it's fair magic, and it's fun Magic is how I would describe it. So, of course, if you have questions or suggestions, feel free to let me know. I'm sure there are a few elemental cards in here, or sorry, not in here, that should be in here. So if you have any suggestions, certainly let me know. I know there's a couple that I'm thinking of putting in that I just don't have yet. I think Rottenmouth Viper is one of them. I saw one that was like, it was just an 18/6 creature. No other ETBs or stats or anything like that. But like that's the type of card that needs to be in this deck. I don't own it yet. And the local game store that I went to didn't have it, so I might have to pull up TCG Player and maybe put it in order. But I have so many elementals as it is. I'm not really in a rush to get more, but I won't say no. So again, this is Ashling the Limitless, aka Big Deck Elemental Tribal, Battle of Wits. So if you have any suggestions or comments, do let me know, and hope you enjoyed this deck tech. Thanks.